Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the sick day of it. I don't even know. I'm sick. I'm Sterling Holmes, Joshua Brisco with us, JB Brisco, myself at Homestretch KC. I'm trying my best, dude. I'm ill, not sick, but like, you know, when a coach is like, are you injured or are you hurt? I'm both. I have a stump of a toe going on right now. I injured myself. I had to shovel the driveway with a broken shovel. It broke on me. I'm struggling, Brisco. How are you?
I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to put on the mask here, and I'm going to do, I think, what needs to be done, and hold, and 3, 2, 1. Hello, welcome into Tuesdays with Sterling on Arrowhead Addict. He's Sterling Holmes. I'm Joshua Brisco. Sterling, under the weather. Me, over the weather. I am over the moon. I had a great Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Today's Tuesday. I think Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are going to be pretty good too. Stu, I'm doing fantastic. And now the two of us have an average amount of energy for the two of us usually.
Okay, we're going to have fun though today. I'm very excited because we now actually have the AFC West playoff landscape in front of us. We no longer have, well, to an extent we do still have hypotheticals, but at least we have the correct teams for hypotheticals. No longer do we have to talk about the ridiculous B-team Bengals. Gosh, a bunch of betas. I mean, imagine complaining all the time about your team losing 8 games and losing to the Patriots and then being like, yeah, it's the Chiefs' fault. Dog, grow up. Stop using Velcro shoes. I mean, seriously, how do they walk and talk? How do they walk and chew gum?
They can't until October usually.
Not all Cincinnati fans, but like 97% of them. I have never seen a larger subsect of a fan base be irrationally idiotic than Cincinnati. And now we no longer have to deal with it. Woo! I saw the best meme where it was the 1 through 7, but it's the one guy who's chewing on a medal and popping champagne. And it goes, the Chiefs are afraid to play us as they're in the 8th spot as every single other team is looking down on them, including the... Let this sink in for a second. They went 9-8 last year with Jake Browning. They went 9-8 this year with a potential MVP candidate, with the Triple Crown winner at wide receiver, and with a potential Defensive Player of the Year. It is absolutely hilarious. I love the tweets that go, yeah, you guys got lucky. Wait till we have Joe Burrow back and healthy. No longer the Bengals go 9-8. Well, guess what, pal? Y'all just did.
Most of my frustrations here are with journalists, analysts, people a level sort of authority above the fan bases. But since we're talking about that part of it first, you know what I didn't realize until, well after the Bengals had been eliminated? That the Seattle Seahawks with 10 wins did not make the playoffs. I didn't hear a single person mention that as some sort of injustice. They tied with the Rams. The Rams had the tiebreaker. Therefore, the NFC West only gets one playoff team, and the 10-7 Seahawks don't make it. Now, it's all vibes-based, which I think most of us know, at least subconsciously. The reason that the Bengals were in the mix here was because their season went in the order that it did. If they would have won their first 4 games of the year and then slowly fizzled out and then lost the season finale to the New England Patriots, who they lost to the first week of the season, nobody would care. But we like narratives and we like building up like, oh, look at the Bengals heating up at the right time. And they were heating up at the wrong time, but they put it in the microwave too late. And now the NFL world got like 2 good weeks of Bengals narratives they could use to fill out their shows. And then throughout the playoffs, the media will then, of course, talk about the teams who are actually playing in it. So everybody wins there, except for those of us with fully functioning brains.
Yeah, it blows my mind how they blame the Chiefs as if, one, that really matters, and two, why would the Chiefs help them? Three, if they watched that game, it was all backups. Four, why would they play their starters when you look around the NFL and saw guys get injured in Week 18, including the Green Bay Packers? It's just absurd, man. It's just the most B team, borderline insane behavior I've ever seen. There's a couple accounts, like the Goodberry and the Zim Day. I don't know. My point is, how do they have that many followers? It's not some guy.
Here's the one that set me off, okay? Here's the one that absolutely, I'll talk for a little bit. You get some liquids in there. Blow that nose. Here's the one that blew my mind. You do know who Don Van Natta is because he's got Pulitzers and he's been at ESPN for 1 million years. And so if you like to read this, it's still on the front page down over on the right side on chiefsonsi.com. It's the first time I've had to hop into like sort of snarky columnist mode in a while, and people have been reading it, which is extremely validating. So thank you if you've checked that out. But Don Van Natta tweeted, real serious journalist and writer and the whole deal, tweeted, the Chiefs taking a dive today is a low light of this NFL season. Whether their incentive was only rest or also blocking the dreaded Bengals from the playoffs, it's just a supremely bad look and likely self-sabotaging for a team hoping to three-peat. America's team? No. Man, every 4 words of that is a different kind of stupid. It's a different kind of wrong. They weren't taking a dive. It's certainly not the worst thing I saw on my TV this season. I watched Thursday Night Football. Whether their incentive was only rest or also blocking the dreaded Bengals, we'll get back to dreaded in a second. Whether, Don, you're a journalist. If you think that that's what they're doing, say it. If you don't think that's what they're doing, why would you float that as, the Chiefs, again, taking a dive is a very active thing. Meanwhile, the Buffalo Bills had Josh Allen go out there, take one snap, and then march his happy ass over to the sideline so the Bills could lose to the Patriots, running Joe Milton out there, 2 teams that did not care about winning that football game. The Patriots beat the backup Bills and lose the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. They dropped down to 4? That was the Bills actively killing a division rival. They took a ton of draft value by not making Josh Allen play in that game, and Don Van Natta did not tweet about it. Also, they're not the dreaded Bengals. We're living on some really old stories. Every Chiefs fan listening to this knows that already. Also, likely self-sabotaging? Yeah, Don. What Travis Kelce really needed on Sunday was to get his block knocked off 20 times for no reason. Great take, man. Serious thinker. I'd like to read more about that in the same tone. It's at chiefsonsi.com. It's also my pinned tweet.
The dreaded Bengals or the dreadful Bengals because they lost 8 games.
They last beat the Chiefs in 2022. Look, man, we have our like childhood Chiefs cards. So also in the next round of Twitter nonsense is like, oh, look at all these Chiefs fans that came up over the last 5 to 10 years. Which certainly they became more fun to root for. But there are people tweeting from Cincinnati being like, well, I didn't know any Chiefs fans. Yeah, dumbass, you don't live here. You're not I don't know how many Cincinnati Bengals fans I know in real life. I believe that they've been there for a long time. But we've seen, we may have talked about this last week. One of my core fandom memories as a child, I think I ended up finding out it was 2002 or whatever, when the Chiefs had 3 things to go their way the last week of the season, and the Chiefs backed into the playoffs and promptly lost to Peyton Manning. But I remember being a kid, running around the neighborhood in celebration when I think the Niners beat somebody, maybe the Broncos. Again, we may have talked about this on this show. I can't remember where I've talked about it. But I remember that. And I understand how frustrating it must have been for reasonable, normal Bengals fans to be like, man, all right, Carson Wentz season, getting hyped up for Carson Wentz is the guy that's going to save our season. That's fine. I also understand if you're a Bengals fan that's like, man, kind of sucks that Mahomes didn't play in a game that we needed. But if the next words out of your mouth aren't, oh, well, we should have beaten them, or we should have beaten the New England Patriots in week 1, the team that just lost the number 1 overall pick from accidentally winning against backups, then I don't know what to tell you. You can Bengals fans be bummed. Your season was a disappointment again. I don't have beef with general Bengals fans, and I generally like Joe Burrow more than the vast majority of people covering the Chiefs or people in Kansas City. I like Joe Burrow. That offense is extremely fun with those weapons. You know, firing Lou Anarumo was sort of viable. But, man, like, you just have to grow up a little bit, and not just Bengals fans. The people talking about this with such a low level of intellectual honesty. It's really frustrating.
I just love too DPI, all the stuff that were actual penalties. The Bengals are still so caught up on. Yet when D Ford was offsides, what did Chiefs fans say? Oh, D Ford, it's your fault. There was no blaming the refs. It was like, yeah, that's a penalty. That's football. You can't do that. It just makes me laugh at the disparities, and that's what happens when you just have a horrendous franchise that's about to get worse because you can't keep your defensive players, and you're going to try and figure out what to do with a great but oft injured T. Higgins. You got to pay, Jamar Chase. You've yet to pay a lot of the offensive line, which is still not great. It's just it's questionable. I see where they're coming from. They're hurt. They don't have much. I almost feel bad for them. And by the way, I never thought I'd say it, but I love letting Josh Brisco cook.
Let's go.
Yeah,
every now and again, I get the ingredients all laid out and I get angry enough to start chopping.
I kind of like the 13 seconds comment. Says this is a travesty. Chiefs should have played Mahomes, Kelsey, Jones, Tony G, everyone in week 18.
Yes. Yes. Tony Gonzalez should have been out there just taking fadeaway jumpers over the crossbar. I don't know if he has that vert anymore.
All right, let's talk about the actual teams in the playoffs now. We know the Chiefs have a bye, which is great. They got to get healthy. We've talked about rust versus rest, talked about it last week. I guess before we get into the actual 7 teams that are playing, or 6 other teams in the AFC besides Kansas City, I do want to ask you, obviously, the Chiefs got just destroyed by the Broncos. No starters. Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, and they played 3 snaps. But what I took away from that game, what I took away was DJ Humphries should not be the starting left tackle. That should be Joe Toney.
Okay.
And I'm slightly, not super, but slightly concerned with some of the depth in the secondary. I know we're all want Jalen Watson to come back. I know we're all hoping for that storyline and how great that would be. But you saw guys who will be getting legitimate snaps for the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs get torched by Bo Nix and the Broncos. So those are my 2 main takeaways. Again, not a lot of pass rush, not a lot of pressure. It was difficult. You don't have Trent McDuffie out there. You don't have Nick Bolton. Don't have Justin Reed. I get all that stuff. But that secondary to me, that was slightly concerning. If you get beat, I get it. You get torched like that, I'm going to have a little bit of concerns.
Yeah, I think those are the same 2 areas that I wanted to talk about from this game. I think they're the only 2 areas that have something to take away from, other than a couple like usage things here and there. But if let's start with Humphries, because I do think that that's the most important thing right now, and the one that is probably going to lead to the most conversation over the next week. PFF hated Humphries' game. Seth Kaiser, you did too. Seth gave Humphries credit for 1 pressure, 3 hits, and a sack. Matt Lane went through and looked at what PFF had done, and he said that, again, that PFF gave Humphries 6 pressures, and then going through these pass sets, he thinks that there is 3 total, and that there are 3 extra that are being added there to Humphries by PFF's charting in a way that's kind of interesting. Here's where I'm at on the guard tackle situation. What Humphries did on 1 or 2 plays yesterday is the thing that Chiefs fans have become rightly most sensitive to seeing happen at that position, which is a quick loss that totally pulls the rug out from underneath the play. And you can't have those with any level of consistency. Kingsley eventually got pulled because he let that happen far too often. Lonnie Morris eventually got benched because he was letting that happen far too often. I still think that I don't know right now if the Chiefs know who they want to start at left tackle in the playoffs. I certainly don't think that it's over. I'll give you that as a starting point. I do not think that conversation has ended, but I think DJ Humphries could have ended it with a great game, which he didn't have. And I think he probably could have ended it with a disastrous game, which he also did not have. But I understand that seeing a couple of the implosions there give you plenty of cause for concern. We haven't seen quite as many plays like that from Joe Toney. He's largely died slow deaths, which is a great thing. But he doesn't die at all at left guard. Caliendo has died some deaths at guard. And I still think that there's just a twinge of curiosity for me about what the Humphries, Toney, Creed left or tackle guard center trio would look like.
Again, that's your best case scenario is DJ Humphries looks like the guy he was a couple years ago alongside Joe Toney, and we're all thrilled. The issue is I don't think there's that guy. That was, again, there's a reason why he played the whole game. Right? There's a reason why.
Oh, yeah, he's played 3.5 quarters in the last year.
Again, because they needed to see what they had in him. First half was better than the second half. Yeah, again, maybe it's because he's not lining up next to Joe Toney. Maybe Joe Toney helps him out. But I think we're also forgetting he didn't look good when he first came and played in a regular season game that mattered for KC.
I thought he looked fine. That might be still the point of contention for this. I thought he was fine in that game, his first NFL action in almost a year. And the other thing that puts a little bit of a finger on the scale for me from Sunday is the fact that the Chiefs were not playing. They were not running real plays. That was not the Kansas City Chiefs offense. They were like taking the coach suggestions in Madden or whatever and saying, one of these three. Yeah, that's fine. Just give him one of those. So, and they were giving real help. I don't want to make it sound like it was a charity case, but they were giving real help to Toney in his starts at tackle. And Humphries yesterday was out there just like, hey, man, just go line up across from Nick Bonito like 30 times and do your best.
Where I land and my final thoughts on this really is the Chiefs offense looked the best this year with Joe Toney at left tackle. Helping him or not, that was when the offense, in my opinion, has looked its best. Whether that's a Patrick feels comfortable, whether that's a real he is just better than any other tackle on this team.
Whether it's Hollywood Brown getting open and everybody else getting open more easily.
But 100%. But you're also able to give Joe Toney help when you have Hollywood and DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Worthy on the field at the same time. So that's also a fair point. I just go with the devil you know versus the devil you don't. Mm-hmm. I think DJ Humphries has too much variance, while Joe Toney, again, this is funny from me, who said, I don't want to see Joe Toney at left tackle. Just after seeing him, again, the first game he played, I didn't think he was very good. Second game, I thought he was average. Third game, I thought, oh, wow, he's good. Like, not again, dying a slow death. He did the first two games. That final game, I thought, okay, no. He is doing everything and more at left tackle. Very impressed. That's where I go. Give me the floor. I like the floor of Joe Toney versus the upside of a 30-plus-year-old guy who hasn't played in a year. That's where I land on it.
But then it's a undrafted guy at guard who, again, you can raise the overall floor with poor guard play as opposed to poor tackle play. That would hurt you less. But I can't quite uncouple those two. And again, if it's not evident by now, I don't have a strong opinion on what the right answer is here, but I just want people I want the listeners to know I think there's a real chance DJ Humphries starts in the playoffs. I think most importantly, the Chiefs are not seeing this as an open and shut case, total blowout. DJ Humphries, because also they brought DJ Humphries in off an ACL injury before they tried to give that job to Joe Toney. So we know that that's what they would like to work out. They have enough of a sample size now. They have some sample size now of Humphries playing for the Chiefs. How has he looked in that time? How do they project how he'll look in the full offense in a playoff game next to Toney? That we may never know. We may find out in a couple of weeks.
A couple of comments I want to get to. One from DJ Baylor says, I think Humphries is being judged a little too harshly when he had the starting offensive lineman next to him for one snap. I get it. I will acquiesce that point. Getting a three-peat says, with how good Toney has been protecting Pat, I would put my best hand out there. This is what we play for, and I want the three-peat. That's, again, more or less where I land because, again, we all want DJ Humphries to be average. I don't know if he can be at this point this late in the season. I have too many concerns. Go with the guy you know, at least from what we have seen. Patrick trusts Joe at left tackle. Lauren Shanks says Hunter Norzad looked promising. Yeah, here's about the only backup offensive lineman that looked pretty solid. Hunter Norzad it gave you a little bit of confidence. I don't know your thoughts there. You look like you licked your lips.
I did. I licked I was really just sort of getting something out of my teeth. My tongue did not leave my lips, in case you're wondering, audience. No, I don't. I'm not willing to take anything positive from the O-line right now. This is a game that I have not rewatched it. I have not gone through to look closer at Hunter Norzad. He's one of the guys I wanted to see. I thought Kingsley at guard was going to be kind of interesting, and it seemed like he was fine. seems like it. Most of those, this is a game we can fire up Game Pass in March, and we can go check that out as we're talking about what the Chiefs should do, in the long haul of Trey Smith, and then of course what you're going to do with tackle position, the draft coming up, all that. So it was really, I don't want to be dismissive, but it was very, very hard to be impressed by anyone who played offense for the Chiefs on Sunday, just because everything was so vanilla, so disjointed, and they were obviously the less talented team out there as well, in addition to being a team that spent no time on the game plan, as opposed to a team that had life and death in the game plan.
A couple questions I want to get to and ask your thoughts on here. But before we do that, Underdog, baby. Yeah, this will be a slower Underdog because I am thick and I am struggling, Joe Namath style. But I love Underdog. Underdog is outstanding. It's a great spot to place all of your, give some more bumps in your chest. Have some fun with it. Higher, lower. You make the call right there on Underdog. If you need some help, they have you with injury protection, vulture protection. They do a lot of times where they will just block out one and like a quarterback has to just throw for more than 1 yard. And you're like, oh yeah, I will throw that bad boy in there. Make those odds even greater. I love Underdog and you will too. Highly, highly recommend every player, anything you want, just higher or lower right there on Underdog. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado, for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and President State where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Mahomes on a high ankle there, I think. It's not your best work. It's not your healthiest. You're not feeling your best, but you knew you had to work quick. You had to work smart. You get through it. Good product at the end. 6.8.
Thank you. All right. A couple of ones I wanted to get to. Oh, one from Jedi. Also concerned with Butker. Is he still injured?
I'm not worried. I'm not panic mode. I don't think I'm going to expect him to miss kicks when he takes the field in the playoffs, but so many moments of the last 5 years or so have not only just been like confidence that he'll hit whatever, because sometimes the drive fizzles out, he jogs out there, he gets you your 3 points and you move on with your day. But there have been so many times when it feels like Mahomes is just kind of trying to play to field goal range, not as a bad thing, as just, hey, all we got to do is get to field goal range here, make it a 55-yarder, and he can send this to overtime, or he can win us the game. I wonder what the Chiefs think Butker's range is right now. I wonder if he is, this isn't the other element of it, because of the injury, is he forcing to try to get a little more distance, and that's why he's becoming less accurate, or we've seen him miss short stuff too since coming back from the injury. Did he miss an extra point, or was it a short field goal? I think he doinked an extra point.
I thought he doinked an extra point and then missed like a 28 or 29 yarder. That one that he just shanked. That was also with long snapper Winchester and a rise that he had to get him on the field. Special teams was not ready to
That's
go.
right. That one, yeah. And that one I'm not willing to put solely on Butker's knee. Like you said, that's in a kind of an operation thing too. But the doink and the issues at kind of all depths right now is what gives me some pause. I don't think you have to be soothsaying that it's like all over for him, because I don't believe that either. But I do think you have to acknowledge that a guy who has been like 95, not literally, I'm not going by like actual percentage, but like you have like 95% confidence in all the time, feels a little more like a maybe a friendly coin flip right now, and that's a little bit strange.
For me, part of me thinks he's gone through this before, but it's never reared its head up in the playoffs. So maybe I'm being a little naive here.
Specifically before, though, I mean, are you thinking back like the ankle year and everything?
Yes,
or?
He has, and he was fine. If it's a big time kick, there's no one I trust more than Harrison Butker. Like, is Brandon Aubrey maybe more consistent? Maybe on the deep.
But I'm saying
kicks.
the knee. I'm saying the knee thing is new.
I know.
Right?
I get it. 100%. I'm with you. I guess for me, I am giving him so much benefit here because of what we've seen from him in the playoffs. From when he needs a clutch kick to go in, I can't think of a single one that's really been missed. Or that's
I don't
hurt
I
the
don't have
team.
any like
Oh.
mental concerns with him or whatever. I am purely worried about if the mechanics for him just have a little bit of a kink in there somewhere that makes you a little bit less accurate on kicks over 50 or whatever. Like, I don't know. Again, I am cautiously nervous, and you're an optimist, baby. I love that.
Slothy, that was very good. This will be a slower ad read because I'm sick. Reads the fastest he can just because he's addicted to speed.
You can't tell Sterling to slow down.
One Infinite Choice says Sterling doing his best Bob Fesco impersonation. That's your coworker, Brisco.
That's what I was talking to about a whole bunch of this morning. I was just thinking, who are we going through? What was it we were just talking about? Oh, the Butker stuff. It was like we talked about Butker for a while. It's like,
okay, so how is that better? How is that my Bob Fesco? Let me know how that was. Is it because I talk fast?
Oh, I don't know. He doesn't do the. I don't know. I'm not sure. I saw the comment, or I heard your comment read there. I'm not sure what the similarity is.
I do love his secondary part of this. Humphries will start. Question is whether he finishes. And I think that's actually a good point. That's a good point. And I said it a couple of times. It may have been from Jedi, so I apologize if it was not from you. But yeah, Humphries probably starts because you can always go back to Joe Toney. I don't know if you start with Joe Toney and then if something happens, you go, okay, now we're putting in DJ Humphries and now Joe Toney's going to left guard.
You would have to. It would have to be like Caliendo having a terrible day or getting hurt. And I'm with you and with the commenters, I think, to say that it going Humphries Toney and then flipping over to Toney Caliendo, that feels doable. Although it's a lot to put on Joe Toney's shoulders, but he's been able to take a whole lot. So,
okay, before we talk about the other teams in the AFC and just about maybe some matchups that we would like to see happen or potentially we will see happen, secondary, we mentioned it in that final game against the Broncos, not good. Again, how much you want to take away, that's completely up to you. I'm typically more of an optimist, but in that particular game, there's a lot of guys who I think will still get snaps in the playoffs who struggled. Now, again, you're playing maybe out of position. Maybe you didn't practice as hard. Maybe the defensive line's not getting as much pressure and it's a well-oiled machine and you just did not care. That's fair, understandable. But when I see Joshua Williams or Brian Cook or Shamari Connor, those guys still struggle who will be getting playing time. I know Najee Johnson, I know he looked really poor in this game, but we weren't really expecting to see him in the playoffs anymore. He's kind of been washed away a little bit, it feels like, playing time-wise, although he still had been getting some snaps here and there. Still not great. Again, I don't know how much concern you have there. I know someone asked, were you surprised to not see Steven Nelson called up? I wasn't, because the only 2 practice squad call-ups made it very, very difficult. You would have either then had to have played Nick Bolton or Drew Tranquil, most likely to make up for the linebacker issue.
Yeah, it was Lynch that they ended up calling up, right? Has been here for 45 minutes.
Correct.
I don't think he played a ton. I will say I'm not surprised, and Andy said on Friday it wasn't going to happen, but I would have liked to have seen Steven Nelson in this game, in part for what you just mentioned about all those corners. The other thing that I'll say is, I don't know. Well, I think I can say 2 things pretty confidently. One is that the backups who were out there, or the players who were out there, were putting their best on the field. Because Cam Jones, who did not have a very good day, Cam Jones is trying to show the rest of the league that he could be somebody else's third linebacker, or show Spags that he needs to be active every week again next year, being a guy that is going to eventually, maybe he's going to take a larger workload from Nick Bolton or whatever, right? Like that's the goal for all the guys who are out there for those sequences. And it did not go very well. The thing that I can say with the utmost confidence is that Steve Spagnuolo did not prepare for that like it was a game that mattered. He played out like a preseason game. Put you in some cover 2. We're not blitzing anybody ever. Go out there and just let the game happen. Just honestly, let the game happen to you. Like you are a passenger in this. Hop on the caboose of this game and let's ride it around the stadium a couple times, and then we're gonna fly back home Monday morning. The interesting things, I was surprised to see Brian Cook get 100% of the snaps. I was not surprised to see Jaden Hicks get a lot of snaps. But Cook is very easily explained by the fact they have 4 safeties on the roster. And Justin Reed was the obvious candidate to get the game off. And then I would have played more Shamari Connor at safety. Instead, he got, I think, mostly slot corner work again, which is not a good spot for him to be in. And they could have used more safety help from him. So I would have done something different there. But as we've talked about, Cook's workload has declined a little bit. He's still playing the vast majority of snaps. As Hicks's role has increased, you get the rookie a bunch of live action. Good for Hicks. maybe more work is good for Cook. I was really surprised that Charles Omenihu played 50 snaps, but short year for him because of the ACL recovery. So I'm hoping he wanted to play that game, and he was already going to have next week off anyway. So again, I don't care about rust, but if you're talking about getting reps as a guy's getting back up to game speed, cool with that. I am still pretty confident in my hierarchy of Joshua Williams over Najee Johnson. I think Chris Roland Wallace over Shamari Connor in the slot as well. And then
Agreed.
I could have seen more from Keith Taylor. It didn't stick with me a lot. He played a little less than half the snaps. But if Jalen Watson can come back, man, that's absolutely massive.
Yeah, 100% agreed. FAU had a nice little splash play as well. Maybe one of the only splash plays for the Chiefs you could actually say was a jumped off the page. That was from FAU. That was nice to see. Even guys like Turk Wharton weren't playing. He played only a handful of snaps in one. So again, Marlon Tuipulotu played a little bit there. Joshua Uche played a little bit there. I guess maybe the more disappointing aspect, again, I want to move on from this. I'm sorry I don't want to be a pessimist here. Maybe because I'm sick, I'm focused on being sad.
We also don't have a real game to talk about for a while, so we're all right.
Yeah, but Cam Jones was a little disappointing, but it was kind of the linebackers as a whole. I think someone said Blake Lynch was the highest graded PFF player for Kansas City, which is hilarious.
Was he really? I didn't even look. I haven't even looked yet this week. That's how you know how I felt about this game.
But I thought Cam Jones, how great he was in the final game last year and how we were so excited for him. Like, I thought he had an outside chance of actually making the active roster over like a Jack Conklin or something like that. Didn't happen. And he really had a poor game, in my opinion. And then Leo, I was really thinking Leo was going to flash and maybe show more because he's so good in his role. He's incredible in his role. And so I thought, well, let's see what happens if you give him a little more. What happens if you give him more? Can you find a way to get him on the field more often? And what we saw, at least in this particular game, which, again, a lot of variables, but was more or less a no-go, that he's perfect in his spot. Incredible. But you start moving him around a little more, and some of the negatives in his game start to shine through. So give Spags credit for using him and putting him in the best spot for him to succeed, because he has been all season long. I love Leo, but I was a little sad that we didn't see him flash more given a larger role.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, I don't want to, I'm not like here to throw dirt on him or anything, because frequently I think Steve Spagnuolo has used the guys in very limited roles that we've felt like has been too minor, right? Like Willie Gay, I feel like could have done more than he was ultimately asked to do. But Leo Chenal played with last week's game, giving him a little bit of a boost. He played about 41% of the Chiefs' defensive snaps this year. And I think that's how Spags wants to use him. I don't, this is another offseason conversation. We're just starting early because we just watched a preseason game. But I would like to believe that he can be a guy that would step in. I mean, it would be incredible. Not to make this show about if they're going to pay Nick Bolton or not. Also an offseason thing. But it would be great to have a linebacker, have your third or fourth linebacker be a guy that he could be our Mike next year. Leo Chenal's not that guy. It would be nice to say, well, he can be a more versatile player or a higher workload player than he has been in his 41%. But he's just kind of a Sam, right? Strong side linebacker that you don't really want to have in coverage. You do want to use as a weapon. That's a part-time role in the modern NFL. Every defense, but the Chiefs were, on this curve early, or Spags was on this curve early. Teams are playing majority sub packages. That's why Shamari Connor gets more snaps or had gotten more snaps than Leo Chenal, because your third corner / fifth defensive back is going to get more work than your third linebacker most of the time. And I don't know, maybe if Chenal was going to get put into a, we'll try to make you never have to cover a tight end kind of Mike linebacker role, maybe he could do a little bit of that, but then there's the entire mental aspect and the communication side of it all. That's obviously very important to Spags. I don't know if Leo has that. He might. I just don't know. It's a little bit of a bummer, because I think Leo Chenal could be a cult hero in Kansas City. He could have another contract and be a really useful player, and a guy that, again, in the game plan on Sunday, the Chiefs weren't doing any fun Leo Chenal stuff. They weren't blitzing him. They weren't putting him in different spots and bringing him off the edge, dropping him. So I do think I think that game with no Spags in it wasn't going to ever be either of the linebackers, really wasn't going to be their best showcase. But I've kind of been on that trend for Chanel where, like, again, for all of Spags' flaws, Jaden Hicks has gotten a larger workload as he's gotten more comfortable in his rookie season. Leo here is at the end of 2024 into 25, and he is pretty much plateaued with the way they've used him to this point.
All right, let's get into the playoffs. Let's get into the
playoffs.
breakdown. Let's have some fun with this. I know the Chiefs don't play for a while, but I think you and I can have some fun with this, okay?
Let's do it.
Let's start with – all right, let's just do 4 or 5 matchup first.
I've barely looked at these. This is great. I'm excited to talk about these with you.
Yeah, because Texans-Chargers, right? There's a decent chance, pretty good chance that one of these two teams will be playing Kansas City, right? That's probably the most likely situation, most likely scenario. Chargers are 3-point favorites. Little surprising, right? They're on the road. It's in Houston. Houston has really struggled down the stretch, but I still believe in CJ Stroud overall. But the Chargers are really starting to put some of their best games together. You know my thoughts on Ladd McConkey. I think he's just so damn good. Obviously, Harbaugh makes a world of difference versus a guy like Brandon Staley. Herbert's still a really good quarterback, but they don't ask him to always do Herbertian things. A lot of times he's more of a game manager, but when they need to find a way to make him have a big throw, he has that in him. It's not like you're trying to play like he's Ryan Tannehill, and then all of a sudden you need him to make a big play, and he's like, well, I can't. I'm Ryan Tannehill. Not a shot on Ryan, but that was kind of the Titans' downfall, right? Was they can play game manager style until you need a big play. He wasn't going to deliver. Herbert still can. So I think they're a dangerous team. What do you make of this 4-5 matchup here?
I think it's interesting that the Chargers are favored on the road. I don't think it's wrong. I think that I was big on CJ Stroud last year, and I remain pretty high on him in general. But I will say that in this game, I think the Chargers have the better coach and quarterback and defense. So that's most of football. I mean, I think weapons is even in that group now as the Chargers have gotten a little stabilized there. A couple of nice grabs from Quentin Johnston. I don't want to have my team's playoff fate tied to his hands. But obviously the Texans have dealt with so many injuries. So I think at this point, man, I would actually rather the Chiefs see the Texans in the divisional round in Arrowhead. I think I'd rather go ahead and have that very quick turnaround of a pretty recent matchup. But I certainly also think the Chiefs are pretty superior to both of these teams in major enough ways where I'm not going to like take the Chiefs to cover by double digits with either of these teams being the presumptive opponents. But I think I'd rather see them get Houston. I would feel pretty good about it either way. But Herbert just has to your point, like he has the extra gear that most quarterbacks don't have. And he's also not mistake prone. Did he have like 3 picks this year? He had 3 picks this year. That's crazy on a decent number of throws. Again, he wasn't out here slinging it as much as he has in the past, but when he does, it looks great. So, I would take the Chargers in that game, but for the Chiefs, I think I'd rather see Houston be the one come into Kansas City.
Yeah, I'd much rather see Houston. I think Houston's offensive line has been their killer this year. I think they're still a really good team. I think CJ Stroud's still that guy. You mentioned the injuries, especially at wide receiver, but to me, it comes down to that O-line. The offensive line right now is just atrocious. And as much as like CJ Stroud, he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not navigating the pocket like Patrick is, which no one does. So it's not really a massive knock, but it's more like Joe Burrow, where you're going to need a good offensive line because you're a pocket passer. You're not going to make a ton of guys miss back there. The Texans defense still has a lot of dudes. They can still get a lot of pressure, but that's the Chargers' strength is their tackles, which kind of negates the Texans' positives in this one. So I'm with you. I think the Chargers win this game. Of the 4 realistic teams that the Chiefs could face, Broncos, Steelers, Texans, Chargers, Chargers probably scare me the most because that is 3 times. That is divisional. I think probably the Texans do have the most upside, if you want to say like the Nico Collins, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, that type of stuff, like the high-end players. But at the same time, they've limped to the finish line, which is kind of like the Steelers, which we'll get to in 1 second. So I'm with you. I think Chargers win that one. That next one, Ravens, Steelers, 10-point differential, which I think is wild for again, third time meet between AFC North opponents where it's almost always physical. I know the Steelers have, again, if the Texans limped, the Steelers have crawled to the finish line. They barely made it, but yet here they are. I know they look bad.
The Steelers' last win was a month ago.
Are you
a
giving
month
10
ago
points?
tomorrow.
You giving them 10 points? I'm not.
They lost to the Ravens in Baltimore by 17 3 weeks ago. So that's probably where that's coming from. It is bizarre. I probably wouldn't. I don't think I'm going to bet any of these games. I haven't bet a whole lot this year anyway. But the one game I am sort of interested in the line of, I think it moved from this morning, is an NFC game. What we can get to. But no, I don't think I would want the point. I would take the Ravens to cover if you made me pick a side on the line. I would not put real American money on this football game because I think it could be absolutely a lot weirder, lower scoring, and kind of grosser, real AFC North caliber stuff. But I obviously think one of these teams is really, really good. And I think one of these teams has had the curtain fall a little bit.
The steel curtain fall.
The steel curtain. I was thinking about like the curtain in front of Oz, but that's much better. Oz's steel curtain has been parted.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a funky game. I believe that Lamar in the playoffs too. Something's got to give. Something Lamar in the playoffs versus Mike Tomlin in the playoffs. Something has to give.
Help me understand where you're coming from here. If I gave you $10 and the appropriate odds, would you rather put those $10 on the Steelers plus 10 or the Steelers money line? You got to make a $10 bet on Pittsburgh.
For sure, the spread. But
okay, you don't think it has an upset potential. Just
I do. I would probably do like 7-3 if you could give me $10 to spin.
I'm giving you a one $10 bill. You have to hand it to a bookie in an alley.
Give me 2 5s. I'll put a 5 on the cover.
No. I wouldn't have asked the question if I would have said, all right, I give you 2 $5 bills. How do you split it evenly, or do you put both on one? Or do you put one on the Steelers minus 10 or plus 10 and one on the Ravens minus 10?
It's tough. Either way, I like them to cover. I just think that the AFC North, third time around, it will be funky. It will be funky. And again, I just don't trust Lamar in the playoffs. It's the Andy Reid narrative. Until you do it, you've never done it. Andy Reid had that happen to him. So Lamar needs to do it. I love his regular season. He's incredible. So much fun to watch. You got to do it. You got to win. If you lose to the Steelers, that narrative, there is so much pressure.
In the divisional round last year, I wanted to give him credit. Yeah, I was thinking, oh man, he was in the AFC Championship game last year. Like, this might just be a Mahomes thing. I'm like, well, they had the first round bye and the Chiefs beat Buffalo. So, they're not going to lose at the Steelers.
All right.
Clip it.
Bills, Broncos. Now, this one is interesting because
I think all of these games are interesting, by the way, which is kind of nice. Like, I think all of these have intrigue. It'll be a good weekend.
8.5-point favorites. Yeah. I would take the Broncos with the points. This is a game that the Bills will probably win. But at what cost? At what cost physically? The Broncos' defensive line is phenomenal. Pat Surtain and his defense is playing some really good football. Bo Nix, for all the bleep I gave Bo Nix, for all the bleep I gave Sean Payton, they're connecting and playing some great football with Cortland Sutton and Vele. They got 3 running backs who were solid, not great, but they have a 3-headed attack. They all bring something a little different to the table. The Bills probably win, but this could be one of those physical, gross, grinded out games where you think the Bills should win by 2 scores. Next thing you know, it's a 3-point lead in the fourth quarter and things get a little tight.
It's one of the highest over-unders of the week, which is odd. 46.5. That's the only thing on this screen that's like jumped out to me looking at all of these games. Like 46.5 feels kind of high. I think if the Broncos, don't ever take what I say as gambling advice, please. Again, I live and work from home in Missouri now, so I don't. When we get on the Missouri side, I'll tap back in. But I've been a real observer this season. I could see the Broncos scoring a touchdown in the fourth quarter that makes it like 17-21, where it's like, all right, they took it from a 2-score lead down to a 1-score, and then Josh Allen goes and scores a touchdown. I think that's where I'm at now. I think that I will buy the superpowers of Josh Allen, and I don't think I'm just being a Broncos hater here. I just still have a little, obviously Sunday was like, I watched them score 38 points against a JV team. I still just get my fraud alert just gets a little bit triggered when I take a closer look at this Broncos team, like a team that could have punched its own ticket by beating a Bengals team we've been making fun of 2 weeks ago. They lost to the Steelers before that. I think it's an interesting line, but I feel pretty good that the Bills are going to be in control the whole time. And I think there's a better chance it's a 3-score victory than a Broncos win.
Okay. Yeah, I have the Bills winning, but I just think that's one of those ones where, especially after the blowout,
man, I want to tease all these now. I want to tease all these games. I'm getting the itch.
That gives Bo Nix a lot of confidence. When you break a Peyton Manning record, that gives you some confidence, right? He's playing some good football right now. Sean Payton, I think, knew what he was doing. He definitely knew what he was doing when he tried to. It was close. Hey, go out there, throw a couple more passes, break Manning's record, then you'll come out. Gives you confidence, man.
Doesn't give me confidence in Bo Nix, but it might give Bo Nix confidence in Bo Nix. I'll give you that.
The NFC side is going to be awesome. Rams Vikings should be electric. You have a Rams team with a lot of playoff experience.
Why did you go to Monday night? Why did we stop? We were going chronological.
I just have it as 4 or 5 seed.
Fine.
I just think that's going to be an electric game. We don't have to spend much time on the NFC because I want to go back to the AFC, but just Rams Vikings will be awesome. A 14-win wild card team of the Vikings, but Sam Darnold looked like he was seeing ghosts. Buccaneers Commanders, which should be the highest scoring game of the week or weekend of Super Wildcard Weekend. That should be one of the most fun games, right? And then Eagles Packers.
Washington's a 3-point dog in that game. That seems like too much to me. A little surprised.
Packers. Again, we'll see with no Christian Watson. Eagles we'll see with Jalen Hurts in concussion protocol. But we expect Hurts to play. Again, they're 4.5-point favorites at home, but still seems a little low. But the Packers are a team that's very inconsistent. When they play their A game, they can play their A game up with almost any team. The issue is they don't play their A game all the time. The Eagles, I think, are probably the best team right now in the NFC. The Lions, to me, are a little too banged up. I know they keep winning. They just won 31-9 over their arch rival to clinch the one. Very impressive. I'm not taking anything away from the Lions, but I think the Eagles right now might be the most complete team, maybe in the entire NFL. The Eagles, to me, are playing some great ball.
Green Bay and Philly have done inverse things for me this year, where I feel like I was higher on Green Bay earlier in the year, and as the season has gone on, I've become a little, and the injury is certainly a huge part of that. As the season's gone on, I've lost a little bit of faith in them. And Philadelphia, I was openly, loudly doubting for a long time. And then now we're at a point where, like, yeah, I think their head coach is sort of an adult baby, but they're pretty good. And so I am 4.5 seemed low to me. I understand the Hurts concern, but that feels. Here's the fun thing about that game. I think if both teams play their like most normal game, I think the Eagles probably win by like 10. If Jordan Love just blacks out into the playoffs, the Packers, of course, could win that game. It's a playoff game. It's 5 points, But I could absolutely see a dialed-in Jordan Love game overcoming any other factor. I just don't know we're going to get that from him as he's doing it with one less weapon.
All right, let's do this thing. Let's go to the NFC. No, let's do the AFC. Let's do NFC first. Let's do our road to the Super Bowl. We'll go quick.
We're picking? Okay.
It'll be fun. Why not?
Let's do it. Why not?
And no one will remind us of our mistakes. No one will.
Oh, man, I haven't done this yet. I'm going to make some bad picks. Okay.
So, Rams, Vikings. Who do you have?
I'm going to go Vikings on the road, but barely.
Okay, I got Rams at home.
Ooh.
I think playoff experience gets it done. And the last, again, I could be wrong.
I love Stafford. I'm cool with all of that.
It might be me doing the Ohio State Michigan thing, right? Like this could be it, like your last thought. But like Darnold looked like he was seeing ghosts, so I'll go Rams. Buccaneers Commanders.
I'm gonna go Commies. I'm gonna say upset on the road. I bet two road teams at the start there, huh?
I will not root for the commies, but I'll root for Washington football team. So I'll go Washington football team to one on the road as well. So we agree. Looks like I have two upsets.
I'm going to be rooting for Tampa. I'm rooting for Baker Mayfield and all that. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough.
Actually, both of these games I've picked against the team I'll probably be rooting for, but that's fine.
Who cares?
Who cares, dude?
Who cares? Yeah.
Who cares?
Eagles, Packers.
Eagles.
Yeah, Eagles. I will go Eagles over Commanders.
I will go. I'm gonna follow the story, baby. Lions over Eagles.
Oh,
I thought you were skipping to the championship game because I didn't know how the bracket was gonna go.
We could do that if you want to. Yeah, we can just do that. So you're going.
Our brackets are gonna end up being different, and the matchups will be different if we split. So I thought you were giving me a feisty NFC championship game.
No, sorry. I will go Eagles over Lions to win it.
I'm going to go Lions over Eagles. I'm going to follow my heart. I don't really believe it, but it's what I want to happen.
Okay, so Bills, Broncos.
Bills.
Ravens, Steelers.
Ravens.
I want to say it so bad. I can't do it. I'll go.
We might be able to pick all these if all of our picks are the same, which I think they might be.
Texans, Chargers.
I'm going to take the Chargers on the road.
Yeah, I'll take the Chargers as well. So in this scenario, the Chiefs play the Chargers. Chargers.
I will take the Kansas City Chiefs to defeat the Los Angeles Chargers.
I will as well. Ravens, Bills.
Although I think that game is going to be stressful as bleep. Yes, Ravens, agreed. Bills. I'll take Buffalo.
I will also take Buffalo.
Yeah, baby, it's lining up.
Chiefs, Bills.
I think this is a really good chance for Buffalo. They've had them before, though. This isn't Buffalo Addict. I'll take the Chiefs.
I'm with you. I think it's so hard. I think Buffalo's so damn good. I think they're so
I reserve the right to pick the Bills that week if the spirit so moves me. But I think the next, whatever the Chiefs show against presumably the Chargers, is going to be a pretty good tell of what the vibes are. So
Chiefs are going to beat the Bills, though.
I think
they're going to do it. Andy Reid's going to put Hollywood, Xavier Worthy, and DeAndre Hopkins like 90% of the snaps on the left side of the field in a stack formation, and all of a sudden the Bills' defensive backs and go, "What are we supposed to do?"
And then Justin Watson alone on the other side is going to go on a streak.
Yeah, and so then we have Chiefs, Lions, or Chiefs, Eagles. I have Chiefs over Eagles
on Christmas.
You have?
I had the thought that. Like, this is probably the first time I feel like I would actively predict that the Chiefs will complete the three-peat. It's hard. And if you said, hey, Chiefs are the field, you'd be a fool to pick the Chiefs. But you would also be a winner the last 2 seasons, and that's kind of wild.
Yeah. Just pick the Chiefs. If you pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl over the past 5 years, you'd be 60% correct.
And the previous 50 years... You would not have been.
You would have lost a lot of money. You would have
gotten better odds a lot of those years, though. In fairness.
All right. Are you doing Only Weird Games next?
Yes, sir. About 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, approximately 4:40 or so. We'll be live with Only Weird Games. I'm going to make Seth explain his DJ Humphries film review to us, and we'll start there, and I will yell more about Don Van Natta.
I apologize for being sick, everyone. I hopefully will feel better in the coming days. Should be back with Adam Best tomorrow. Thank you guys for hanging out, being in the chat with us, giving us nice reviews. Appreciate that. I've seen all the reviews, all the 5 stars and the comments and the review. It means a lot. I do really appreciate it. Some of the emails that you guys have sent as well does mean a lot, really does. Warms my heart with 8 inches of snow outside my yard. Until next time, for Brisco, I am Sterling Holmes. We are out.